This video is sponsored by Evan Designs. When I do a custom car, I'm usually inspired by a design I've seen, almost always an illustration that has the flavor, the stance, the shape that catches my eye. My latest project was inspired by a Steve Stanford illustration. I saw this C2 Corvette custom that sat low. It was perfect. The design simplified all the Corvette lines, where C2 Corvettes had a lot of gills and ridges and vents. Steve had taken them out, made the car look so sleek. So that's what I emulated in my design. At the end of our walkthrough, you're going to see a very special feature I added to this model. I was so impressed with the LED light I used to make it. This is a chip light set from Evan Designs. I'll show you just what I did with this at the end of the video. They sell LEDs even smaller than this one, all the way down to so small it's basically invisible until you turn it on. They have every color, flashing options, fiber optics, and even emergency vehicle sirens and special effects. The Jamison family has been working with modelers since 1997. They know what challenges model builders face. They are known for their excellent customer service. We are happy to have Evan Designs sponsor this video. Use our affiliate link in the description below to check out their website. Model Car Muse may earn a small commission from your purchase at no extra cost to you. And I started with that original kit, or at least it was my plan to start out with that original release of this kit from back in the 70s. The one that was the 3-window, but oddly enough, it still had this 1967 backup light in the back. I had that kit. I started to build it as a kid, as a canyon racer. Flared fenders, the whole deal. As a teenager, that was pretty cool stuff. Well, I started to go through it to build this car. Filled in, or at least intended to fill in the back, cut out, so we had a nice smooth Riviera-like window that went end to end. I then decided I would restore the wheel openings to the way they were. But as a teenager, I got a little carried away with Nitro Stan, the red stuff. It was just impossible to deal with. So fortunately, there was a re-release. I went out and picked this up at my hobby shop. So now I had a fresh, clean body to start with. The interesting thing is that the re-release, they actually took out that 1967 backup light, cleaned that up. That was a plus. My first step is to really take a good look at that designer's illustration that inspired me so much, figuring out where his head was at. Steve Stanford, as I said, smoothed everything down. I said, that's worth keeping. So I went through, filled the side vents, shaved the door handles, took off the emblems, really cleaned it up. All the little bumps, took them out. I went a little farther. I decided to make the car look longer, but not by physically lengthening it, but by taking, let's say, the side window, opening it up, bringing that B-pillar back a little bit so the window's longer, makes the car look longer. I also took the back window. I made that a little bit bigger. That influence came from the later Rivieras. I liked the look. I thought it stood out well on the car. Another modification I made, and it's very subtle, was to move the glass out. So it had more the illusion of flush fitting. Certainly the windshield was easy enough, but the backlight, that back window, was sunken in. On the kit, very much, a little bit on the real car. So I brought it out, I raised the glass, fit it in position so it would flow from the color on the roof, right down the glass, down across that tail section. I think it's a really elegant look. It modernizes it just a bit. From the side view, I wanted to clean up the profile. So when it's viewed from down here, the upper portion of the side windows matches the header along the top of the windshield. Doesn't droop down, it's just a nice horizontal line. You know, when you get all those horizontal lines in there, these little bulges that are just right from the factory, original design, they stand out a little nicer, I think. Followed that classic C2 modification of 6 tail lights instead of 4. And then I added a grille that I scratch built. I built it out of sheets of aluminum that were sandwiched together. Every other sheet of aluminum was stepped back. Created a nice horizontal grille. Just a ton of horizontal lines, again, to make the car look lower. Another common modification to C2 Corvettes is to take these little light pods and just eliminate them. I felt it make the car from the front view look a little tucked under. I decided to keep them. That was another revision these guys made when they re-released the kit. Those side pods were adjusted, cleaned up a little bit. They had a little tilt to them. I corrected the tilt. I think it looks perfect. It helps ground the car. The other thing that grounds this car really well, that lower rocker panel. I mean, we're so used to seeing side pipes, whether they're stock or they're custom pipes, whatever, hanging off of there. It just simplifies it. I love the look. It's different. The illustration that got me started on this was just black and white. White paper, black lines. There was a lot to fill in, especially the body color. I wanted a classic look. I wanted it to be bright. White interior, silvery, blue, maybe a tint of green to the body color, certain pearly, metallic. I started by mixing 30-year-old black gold, snow white pearl, which is the stuff I used on my Studebaker years ago. And I mixed that with some MCW, Nassau blue, which is of course a GM color, giving it just a blue tint, still very silverly. This is a custom. It's got to have super shiny chrome trim. So I used Hasegawa mirror finish. I cut ribbons and just laid it in little stripes all the way around. It's maybe a little brighter than stock, maybe a little cleaner than stock. If you want, you can dull it down, certainly. It looks great on a custom. And all the shapes of that metal trim, which have a little roll, I emulated those as much as possible. So that bit of chrome would concentrate the light in the core in the center and just glow a little bit more, but have a slightly darker edge as it transitions into the body or the glass. I think it adds just a note of realism, a lot of depth. A lot of other subtle moves I made. I thinned down the A-pillar, just makes it more elegant. The same with the side vent window, just a simple piece of chrome to denote that side vent window and the side glass. The rear bumpers. Out of the factory, the rear bumper has, of course, the horizontal section, then that vertical section. Showing off so many nice horizontals, you want a vertical here and there, but I decided that was one worth taking out because you still have that odd hole in the back for the license plate. So I removed the vertical section. I also ever so slightly thinned down and made those rear bumpers a bit more graceful. In doing that, of course, I lost the chrome finish. No big deal. I love Alclad 2, and it worked out really well on this. I did a coat of black, Alclad 2 chrome, and it is so nice. You can actually see those red taillights reflected in the bumper. You get that double whammy of a look. I set the ride height as low as possible, really matching the illustration because I liked it so much. You'll notice something very subtle. It's a little lower in the front than in the back. It's got what I love, the Arter rake, just leaning right in there. I considered using the wire wheels from the AMT Riviera kit. They've been around forever. They've been used on so many customs, and I really love them as everyone else does too. But I wanted to go with some Astro Supremes. I looked around, I considered buying some aftermarket ones, and then the crazy thing is I discovered they were already in the kit. So I got to use those, which was a lot of fun. And those go with some nice thin white walls. It's just the look I want. Also in the kit, I found the motor I was looking for, a small block with injection. It's perfect. Lots of chrome parts. I wanted something that had a very stock feel, but was nice and bright, good and custom. It would lend itself well to chrome. Made a few modifications, cleaned up the engine compartment with some very simple panels, sprayed them with a pearl. It looks good along with the white interior. Just kind of flows for those little inner parts, all those details. For the hood, took the kit hood, that white plastic, I filled in the vents, nice and smooth. And as I painted it, and just didn't have a lot of great support for the design. I thought maybe a clear hood would look really interesting. So I decided to vac form a hood. I used that stock vent-filled hood as the buck and started vac forming clear plastic hoods. Tried it a couple times, came out with a clear. It looked good, but by accident, I overheated the plastic and I got one that was frosty. It was still translucent, but it looked so cool because even better than the clear hood, it showed that shape of the ridge that runs down the center, and you could still see through to see that there was an engine down in there. Never seen that done before. I thought it was really cool, so I kept it. The final detail to go in this car was the rear license plate. At the 2023 NNL East, Irv Arter gave me a plaque that says Arter Rake, the sort of plaque that you put in the back window of a lowrider. It was translucent plastic, so I put black resin around it. I glued the plaque into the body where the license plate would go. I then built a light box. This is the light box. That's the switch. Here's the battery. The light box is held in with magnets. Attach the switch and the battery to the light box. Evan designed LEDs are a good option over a grain of wheat bulbs. LEDs don't produce the heat of an incandescent bulb and use a smaller power source. This chip light kit is compact enough that even with adding my scratch-built light box, I was able to hide the entire assembly in the back of a 1/25th scale car. I think that goes really well with the stance of the car. I am super pleased with this build. I'm so happy that Irv gave me that part that was the springboard for the whole model. I'm thankful to Steve Stanford for doing the sketch that inspired me and everything else along the way that just brought it together. Learning new techniques, every build is something new.